G'day, legends. It's Jai, that Aussie metal guy here. Before we get stuck into another great interview brought to you by Crannk.com and thatmetalstation.com, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe, and that way you can keep up to date with all the best music and interviews from all over the world. G'day, how you all going? It's Jai, that Aussie metal guy here with Crank.com and with thatmetalstation.com. So tonight, wherever you are in the world, I am having a chat with Traitor out of Philly. I have Greg and Joe. Pleased to meet you guys, and thanks for making some time to have a chat with me.
Pleased to meet you. Absolutely.
There we go. First off, guys, did you just want to go through, Joe, for the audio, for the people that aren't watching the video, they're catching the radio, did you want to introduce yourself quickly, my friend?
Yeah, I'm Joe Rado. I'm drums for Traitor, do backup vocals and lead vocals on a few select tracks.
Okay, and Greg, did you want to go next, mate?
Absolutely. I'm Greg. I play lead guitar and I do lead vocals as well as backing vocals for Traitor.
Okay, cool. First off, guys, I don't know who wants to grab this question or you both want to bounce off each other, but can you tell me and my listeners kind of where did Traitor begin from, and how did the band start? And tell me a little bit about the beginnings of Traitor.
I can take this one, Joe, if you want me to.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So Traitor started back as a project that was forming in about 2012, around the fall time. I was in a group before that, and so was our guitar player, Brian, who's not with us today, but he decided that he wanted to get together and start a project, more in the along the lines of just, thrash, the traditional stuff that we know and love. And, I said, that's fine, but, we got to find at least two other members. So I met Joe through a mutual friend of ours, actually, who played hockey with him. And also lives in Australia now, funny enough. And just a text message led to a jam session. And, Joe and I have been vibing and writing and playing shows ever since. We had our first show in April of 2013. We had another bass player named Dylan who started off in the group with us. He's not with us currently, but we have our bass player, Tony DiDonato, now with us. But yeah. We've been that's how we all started, essentially. Unless you have anything to add there, Joe.
That first jam session we had at the Rubbish Bin in Philly. This was my first legit band. I had been jamming with various musicians around my home in Delaware here for a couple of years. I had been playing drums for maybe 3 years or so, so I was really kind of just getting into it. So I was all excited to try out for a real band, and I had all my stuff packed up and I forgot my hi-hat stand. So I kind of had to, they were play this, we had a Danzig song and an Iron Maiden song. We kind of jammed out, and I was so embarrassed and so nervous, but we made it work. And, I got that text back for the second meeting. So I was real happy about that and remembered my hi-hat from then on.
So from that first kind of meeting and that jam together, Joe, and did you have an idea roughly of what you were going to do with Traitor, or was it just a matter of you guys getting together, jamming out, and kind of seeing what influences and styles you kind of have similar and going from there?
I think originally we were just kind of straight thrash. Not really any one influence in particular, band to kind of model ourselves after. But I think it's a little bit of both, that as we started to kind of learn each other's tastes and kind of what we wanted to do, we started to write the first couple songs. It kind of right out of the gate, the British heavy metal influence kind of came out. I think Traitor was the first song that we wrote, and just the clean leads on that one. Like I said, just kind of out of the gate, we started kind of morphing into that, thrash / heavy metal, British heavy metal influence, and it kind of just morphed on from there. And we've from there really kind of tried to not constrain ourselves too much to just strictly being one style. We kind of just take it wherever we feel like the song is going.
Yeah, I really do dig bands that can kind of ride that line, you know what I mean, and kind of not get totally locked into any influences. Yes, you guys have that real heavy thrash, but as you said, you've got that new wave of, as they say, heavy metal coming through as well, and it just has some great chops to it. And the guitars, man, those rhythms and those leads through that, dude. I just thought, man, you're nothing like a great guitar, man. Like Greg, you know what I mean? Like sitting there with those riffs, dude, and kind of just fucking jamming out to it as a listener, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I write the vast majority of material musically, so that means a lot. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
And the first EP there was, as you mentioned there, Traitor, I think you were saying was one of the first tracks you kind of worked on, and that was on your first debut EP, which was the Delaware Destroyers way back in 2014. What was that process like, you know, getting in there and recording that first EP for you guys?
That was it was a process that I didn't want to repeat again, unfortunately. I mean, the engineer we had was great. His name's Arthur Rizek, phenomenal engineer, and he's done work with Sumerlins is his one group that he does work with. He did an album by Crypt Sermon. They're another big group that's coming up around here. They're huge. So I mean, you know, he's done a lot of great stuff, and he recorded another group for a huge black metal group. I can't remember who it was at this point in time, but you know, he was a great engineer, but just we were all just very fresh and new to the process as it was, you know, and I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do, but I wasn't sure like how to do it per se, you know. And so just laying down those tracks was, you know, trial and error. A lot of live performance type things. I think Joe and I actually recorded guitar and drums together simultaneously in that demo there, and then I think he just cleaned everything up from there. But it was interesting, definitely a learning experience. I got to really experience my first recording where I was a lead on vocals too. You know, that's the first time I'd ever recorded my own voice as a lead. So it just there was a lot that was learned from it, and you know, I wouldn't change it for the world. It was just definitely a learning experience, you know, one of those first things. But we got a pretty cool product out of it, though. I think it's cool, you know.
Yeah, and you go, Joe.
I was gonna say it was definitely a learning experience, and every recording we've done, I've taken something away from it. I mean, I'm a big believer in just kind of taking your lumps and kind of learning by understanding where your opportunities are. That first one, and this is a classic Brian. So we recorded it in the rubbish bin, which was his old house. It was very much a punk house.
Was that the milk crate stage?
The milk crate stage. So he had all these milk crates that he had gotten, and he made like a drum platform. And so we had like planks of plywood. I think there was like a Mountain Dew sign from like a 7-Eleven, like light pole or something.
There was.
And so like not only was this thing not particularly sturdy, you know, precarious to get up onto, but I kind of had to make sure that my drums were compact enough. And I play my kit pretty, you know, compactly anyway. You know, just kind of making sure like one of my cymbal stands isn't like just kind of hanging off the edge here. So the whole time we're like, anytime I'm practicing on that thing or when we were recording, the whole thing's just kind of shaking all over the place and everything. But honestly, the tracks, I really love that demo. I think the energy you can get out of that, as many mistakes as we feel like we made listening back to it, it's also nice to kind of feel like we really harnessed, you know, the energy we had as a new band, and especially again, you know, being in a punk house, you know, all this DIY stage and all these crazy things that Brian likes to do. It really kind of has that sentimental value of, you know, we just kind of started literally from nothing, and we just kind of worked our way up and made mistakes, and it's what makes a unique product for us, though, I think.
Yeah, and that's the kind of the thing with bands. I've chatted to a few, and I do like to ask about it as well when they do their first recording. And a lot have gone, man, I really love doing it. It was an eye opener, but I'm kind of glad that's done. So going forward with the band, we've got a little more idea of what we are in, and you kind of did come back to this. You did do the 6-track tape re-release of it as well, and you've got an extra 2 tracks on it. Tell me a little bit about that release as well, guys, and what was the idea to come back to it? Because I love tapes. I've gone back and bought a whole heap of fucking tapes that I'm probably never going to play, but I just love having.
The tape was initially recorded. I'm sorry, I'll start over with that. The tracks that we have on the tape were initially recorded, and the intention was to have a full record, actually, with that. Because I thought to myself, you know what, I liked what we did with the demo. The demo sounded good, but I think I wanted to try a different production type, a different sound, a different mix with it. And I thought, you know what, why don't we redo the 4 original songs plus another, I think we had another 4, maybe 5 songs on top of that, and let's make that our first album. Well, what ended up happening was, again, we just had a lot of learning experiences with it. One of them being that, we tried to record everything live, without a click track or anything like that. And to kind of, save time and save money on the recording and things. And so there's a lot of there was another, 3 or 4 songs, I think, on there that just didn't make it, because I just said, you know what, I'm not happy with the way it came out. I think we could have done much better. And so we decided to make an EP on tape with the 6 songs that we felt like, hey, this actually came out pretty well. You know what I mean? And there's still 1 song from that recording that we haven't released yet, actually. And because we were supposed to do a release with a bigger band, and we were going to do a split 45 with them, 7-inch vinyl. So it was, again, in the interest of trying to save time and save money, we kind of, pushed through some things that we should have paid more attention to. But again, we still got some great sounding tracks out of it, so it was kind of like the next step. We're like, okay, I feel like we're on the right track now. You know what I mean? We just have to now just tweak, these certain items. We now have to definitely take the time to do everything to a click track, and make sure that all the riffs were done properly, verse by verse and chorus by chorus and such. And have to go back and tweak the vocals and do more than just one vocal track on every line. You know what I mean? Because doing that, like we did that in the latest record, Last Hope for the Wretched, and going back and doing multiple vocal tracks over even the verses and the chorus and such, it added a certain it adds almost like a chorusy effect to the vocals itself. And it's very nuanced and interesting, and that definitely adds to just the feel of the vocals in there. So those are all things that I learned from it. But yeah, it's still a great release. And we have a song that we rarely play live on there too, called Skull Prison, which Joe actually sings on. It's about 8 minutes long, so it's definitely a treat, for real fans and listeners.
7.5. I was going to mention that one, not to toot my own horn. That was the one that was my debut on lead vocals for that one. Yeah. And yes, I can sing it and play it live. And that was also kind of one of the first times that I was really pushing Greg to be like, hey, I have an idea for a song. Here's kind of what I want the theme to be. And then I'm just kind of like, do with that what you will. And so he kind of comes up with some riffs and bounces them off me. And I've actually probably got like 15 to 20 recordings in my phone of me mimicking guitar sounds with my mouth, because I've dabbled in guitar, but I am not a guitar player. So I kind of push him to be like, yeah, I like where you're going with this, or not with this, or let's do this a little bit longer. And that's where the song that we really both kind of started to work with each other directly on creating, a finished product. And that's, again, one of my favorite songs to play. I really got to stop, coming up with these songs that I want to sing that are like 6 or 7 minutes long. We had the one track, Raise the Black, which is, again, 7 minutes long, but sometimes I kind of just get so engrossed in the song where I'm like you listen to some bands and you're like, damn, that's such a good song. And I wish there was just a little bit more to that. And so sometimes I feel like the stoner metal guy in me is just kind of like, you just keep going. Unfortunately, then it's harder to play live, because then you're like, you gotta fit this in, and I don't always want to sacrifice like, well, we can't play 2 songs now, we got to play this, and then we have a little bit extra time.
Yeah, well, that's what one thing I'm enjoying about you guys as well, Joe, with you guys and the contrasting vocals. It must open it up for you guys creatively and musically, having you both being able to do the vocals, you know what I mean, on different tracks and different parts that are going to work for you, you know, and your voices.
Yeah. And I love when Joe takes a lead vocal on a song, because typically when I write and I'm playing, you know, different rhythms and putting parts together, I typically already have a vocal melody in mind, right? So that's kind of coming to me as I'm putting together these parts. And then, you know, I take the vocal melody and I just put words to it, which is kind of backwards for a lot of artists and writers, because I know most people write the lyrics and then write the music around it, but I work backwards. So when Joe comes to me and says, hey, I've got these lyrics here, it's always a fun challenge for me to just come up with music around the words that he's written. And also I get a nice pleasant surprise when he finally takes those words and puts them into a vocal melody and puts it over my music. It's like, it's great. You know, I get to like kind of see it all unfold in a different way. And frankly, I mean, some of our best songs are with Joe on vocals because of that process that we had. You know, we have a song called Weapon X that we did on a split 7-inch with a band called
Sacrificial Blood.
And I think that was one of the earliest ideas that I had when we were, you know, just a group. And Weapon X is probably musically one of our best songs, you know. And then the songs that I have, you know, on Last Hope for the Wretched, like Why They Fear the Night, is probably my best guitar solo. It's my favorite one that I have. You know, that's just freaking, it just rips. So it's always fun for me to yeah, exactly. It's always fun for me to take, you know, Joe's words, and then I write music around it, and then I get this brilliant surprise at the end of this amazing song. You know, it's just I love when that all comes together the way it does. So it's nice to have those as well. You know, but yeah,
can you tell me a little bit more about that track? That is, for people, Last Hope for the Wretched. That album, that was your debut full length, and for me, like, I love the sound on it. You mentioned Weapon X, dude. It just feels like you guys just kept going with that. This album, it feels like you kind of have hit your straps, you know what I mean? You kind of feels like the sound is there, just everything, dude. I put this in, and like, that's the one thing I love about my job and being able to chat to all these great bands from all over the world, you know, from the underground scene right up to now. When I put on an album like you guys, Traitor, I hadn't heard you guys before, and I was like, damn, man, this just blew me away. I love thrash metal. And like, I was cranking this for a good portion of yesterday, dude. And as you mentioned, that track, Why They Fear the Night, man, the guitars, dude, I mentioned earlier on, the rhythms and the leads are just insane, man. You can't, everyone loves a good bloody guitar riff, mate.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's one of those songs that he just came to me and said, hey, I've got these lyrics, just put some music to it. And that's what I came up with. And it's just it's great. And in true Joe fashion, it was like, hey man, like, he's like, oh, just, you know, we'll just play this part and then we'll end it here. I'm like, well, I got these 2 other parts though that might work pretty well with it. And he's like, well, I don't want the song. I think he even told me he didn't want the song to be too long, but then I showed him the parts and he's like, oh, but those are so cool. Like, yeah, let's put those in too. And I was like, yep, we got to. We're going to. I said, I will make it work one way or another. You know? But yeah, that's definitely, that's a gem on the record for sure.
Yeah, I have such a distinct memory of writing that one. So the idea, it's a song about Conan the Barbarian. So the original movie, I had jury duty. I got to come home early. I had the day off of work. I grabbed a piece of pie out of the fridge. It was like 11 o'clock. It's like, whatever, I'm chilling. Popped in Conan, started watching it, and I was like, that I got to write a song about this. This is great. And so I kind of started thinking about it. And like maybe 2 weeks later, I'm like getting ready for bed, and I'm like brushing my teeth, and I'm like, it just hit me. And so I wrote the chorus. Like, I just whipped out my phone and I just wrote the chorus like right then and there. And then it kind of just like, you know, sits for a couple of weeks. So I'm just kind of thinking about like, okay, well, what can I build around this? Like, how can I kind of build this story into a song and make it work? And I was looking on Facebook one night, and Greg posted this video of that solo, like it just noodling around.
Yes.
And I'm like, I immediately text him like, Greg, and he's like, what's up? And I'm like, that video. And he's like, yeah, what about it? I'm like, we need to put that in Why They Fear the Night. It just like, I was like, that's it. And he was like, well, that's kind of in whatever tuning. And I was like, I'm a drummer. I don't know what you're talking about. Make it work. So he's like, yeah, man, you know, let's mess around with it. And then from there, you know, we're just texting each other. I remember the Crom chant breakdown with just the drum beat. I literally was like sitting at work. I was like, I kind of want to do this Crom chant. And the idea for the end of that song, especially like cleaving the head with a single swing, reclaiming my throne, barbarian king, is the scene where he kills Tulsa Doom. And you just think about like him holding up like the head, and like, you just, I want people to think about like, you know, there's a crowd of people just like chanting for him. That's the idea that I wanted to get. I'm like, okay, so what can I do underneath that that's really gonna like just make that chant just come to life? And so I was sitting in the break room at work, and I'm like, oh, I should just, and I just record that on my phone, just like drumming on the table with my fingers. And I'm like, this is just going to be on the floor toms and the second rack tom, no cymbals or anything. And Greg Fashion, he's like, all right, we'll make it work. And so we just kind of mess around with it. And again, he's very good at translating drummer speak into guitar.
You have to, and that's so cool that you mentioned that Facebook video, Joe, because that's exactly what I wanted to tell the story of. And yeah, it's not that it wasn't in a different like tuning. It was a certain key that we had never played in. It's in, you know, it's in C minor, and we've never played in that key before. And you know, Joe would talk to me, be like, well, you know, how low can we play that C note, you know? And I'm like, well, not very low. It's just on one, you know, it's just here. But we got it. But we made it work. It still sounds heavy as can be, you know. And it was awesome. So it was just great. And he totally dorked out with me over that progression, and that became my solo section for Why They Fear the Night, when I do that long-winded solo there. And that just perfect. Everything I could have wanted. So yeah.
Well, I'm definitely glad it was in there. And as I mentioned, the last Hope for the Wretched did come out in January, but you are giving it the physical treatment for people like me that absolutely love holding albums still and merch, and that's coming out on 8th of July. It must be good for you guys to finally get this merch out, because I know there've been delays all over the world with fucking all sorts of albums, vinyls, CDs, everything due to the last few years, and we all know that. So it must be great for you guys to finally get this one out.
Yeah, definitely. So
yeah. And I want to ask, while we're talking about the tracks on the album, guys, I know I've jumped off there, but a Drifter. I wanted to ask about the track Drifter, man. I was getting some hardcore Mad Max vibes. I don't know if that's the Aussie in me, but can you tell me about that track, dude?
It's all about Mad Max. It's all about Mad Max. Yeah. It's the whole story, you know, burning through injected fuel across the wasted land, past the foul by axe so cruel, power in my hand. He's rolling down the road in that crazy ass vehicle. He's got that sawn off shotgun, and he's just gonna go kick some ass because he's Mad Max, right? You know. And then, you know, the second verse talks about how he comes across that colony of people, and you know, the bandits are after their gasoline and everything, and then how he actually helps them escape. That's what it's all about. It's 100% about the story of the Mad Max movie. So yeah, definitely inspired by that.
Yeah, I know, dude. That's why I had to mention it then. And you guys have also got a heap of shows coming up. It must be great as well. I've noticed you played a couple of shows already. It must be great for you guys to finally get out there and be playing some shows off the back of this album, because I know some bands have released albums at the start of COVID and couldn't actually play till now or the last year for their album. So it must be great for you guys to connect with the fans, get out there and play live, because that's where it's at as a band.
Yeah, definitely.
So we did start recording prior to the pandemic. We actually kind of lucked out with the pandemic somewhat, because it can be hard sometimes to kind of try to schedule all the time. Especially we use Dan Kishbaugh at Creep Studios, and he's really good recording engineer. He's got a great studio, but it can be tough sometimes to try and, you know, make your schedules between 4 people work, especially you know, us doing multiple vocal tracks, doing the gang vocals, everything like that. It can just kind of, it starts to take more time than you want it to. But then the pandemic hit, And obviously, like, nobody was doing anything there. We weren't even sure Dan was going to be able to keep the studio going. So we actually, once things started dying down, we actually kind of had a deadline to finish it up for our label. And so we actually, luckily, Brian knows literally everybody in the sound business. We were able to get one of our buddies to help us finish the mix. So we crunched that out in like a week, just going up to Philly and just spending like 5 hours just getting the mix done, coming out with the product that we were happy with. But it took longer than we wanted. But again, you know, the pandemic, we kind of lucked out there that we weren't like, you know, getting it done and then, you know, the whole world ends. So we did luck out there that we didn't, you know, have to sit around on our hands, because it, you know, sure, for everybody else, it sucked. You know, there's nothing that you can do. Like, I just bought like an electric kit and I just sat down in my basement to practice as much as I could, just kind of trying to do what I can. But, you know, once things started dying down, we were like, you know, it was crunch time trying to get this thing out. And we were just kind of fortunate that the timing worked out that, you know, as everybody's trying to now be like, okay, I think we're all ready to start playing shows again, ready to start going out, that we were kind of able to hit it, like, I feel like kind of right at a very good time, you know, get it out early in the year, get the hype up, and then, you know, plan our tour here for the summer.
Yeah, release a few tracks slowly as you go through the year. Everyone gets a chance to listen to the album and kind of rock out to it, and then you come back again and you're able to do that promo again with the CD. And as I mentioned, I know they were all late as well. The tour does start in Pittsburgh, does it? I believe on the 8th, is it? You got Pittsburgh on the 8th, Cleveland, Milwaukee, Chicago, Cincinnati. No show booked on the 13th. You got Knoxville, Charlotte, and DC. Like, yeah, what's it like touring, guys? It must be fun for you guys, because people don't realize it takes a lot of fucking hard work. You know what I mean? Especially releasing albums. And as you mentioned, like, kind of releasing albums, giving everyone a taste, but you kind of want people to buy the album or at least, you know, support you in some way. And playing live and playing these shows is a big part of a band getting through. Like, you watch some of these bands play. I was talking to guys that played like shit. They've played hundreds of shows in a couple of years prior to fucking COVID. Then it kind of shut everything down. But playing those shows and doing that hard work gets your music out to a lot more ears, and people are probably more likely to go and buy your stuff when they go see you live as well.
Yeah. Touring has two parts to it. It's a very serious business. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of late nights and early mornings. It's a lot of eating junk food. It's a lot of sleeping in the van at times. It's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of trial with it, but frankly, it's like vacation for musicians at the same time. Yeah, like you're literally going out on the road, seeing different cities, different people, playing different venues, and hanging out with, you know, in my case, 3 of my best friends all the time. So it really is like a vacation in many ways to me, and I'm doing what I love. You know, regardless of the work is almost like it's just, the work is not even work sometimes, because I'm doing what I love to do. You know what I mean? Regardless of how hard it is, or if I'm, you know, or whether I make money or not, it's just it's all worth it to me always. You know, so yeah.
Playing in Philly is great. I love Philly. I love being up in the city. But the one drawback, especially, and I'm sure this probably happens anywhere, like after you've played somewhere for a while, it's hard to kind of get your merch out. You know, maybe Philly's a little bit unique, but people just don't buy merch. I see some bands, they don't even put their merch out because people just don't really buy it. So you got to get out there to be able to push your wares, so to speak. I remember we played a show in Boston. This is one of our early tours, and again, this was my first like real band. So Greg, Brian, and Tony have all kind of been around the block. I remember it was like our like second or third day, and they're swinging into Whole Foods around like breakfast, and I'm just gonna get Dunkin', and it's like day 3, and then I'm like wondering, why do I feel like shit? I'm like, because I'm eating junk food too much, and I'm like, oh, like that's why you guys went into Whole Food. Get some real food on there. So kind of much like recording and learning as you go from your mistakes. This time around, I'm going to try to eat as much real food as I can, so I can last more than a couple days here. It gets tough too, just kind of being away from home. I'm married. I've got a 3-year-old. So that gets tough. We've done shows before where like my wife is calling me at like 2 a.m. and she's like, this kid won't let me go to sleep. And then I'm like, oh, I'm like, damn, thanks for letting me go.
It's hard work. It's hard work. People don't realize that. They think, oh, this is just some glamorous, we go on tour and it's lots of fucking hookers blow. No, it's not, guys. It's hard fucking work. The bands that make it and actually get anywhere in this, they're working hard, dude. Like you said, you're going to a show, you're eating healthy. If you're going to get there, you're going to fucking eat healthy. You're not getting on the piss every night. You're not fucking, it's not like that, people. I've never seen it like that, dude. It's just hard work. The bands that really get anywhere, it's just constant, hard, bloody work. You know what I mean? Getting there, connecting with the fans. That's why it's important for people to get along and buy the CD, the merch, the physicals as well. It's like, if you love Traitor, get along, buy the bloody merch and support the band. You know, that's why I love mediums like Bandcamp. And yes, I do listen to Spotify. Yes, it's great for the bands to get those streams up. But if you're streaming, go buy the album as well. It's nothing like having that fucking physical in your hand, especially with The Last Hope for the Wretched. Some killer artwork, guys. Dude, this has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you guys, finding out some more about Traitor. We're going to sign out, but I'm going to ask for last words and shout outs and thank yous. Anything I may have missed from both of you, but also I'm going to get you guys to pick a track from the latest album and why. Go for it.
Okay. Joe, you go first.
I want to give a shout out to Lauren Gornick. Every chance I get, I give her a shout out. We had some trouble with what we wanted the original artwork to be. And again, we had a deadline crunch with the label. She delivered us a dynamite cover in I think like 2 or 3 weeks. We just told her, hey, you know, here's what we're looking for. Here's what our label wants. You know, she delivered. We kind of just said, here's a link to the album. Listen to it. You know, feel free to just kind of take it where you want to go. We want to give you the art, you know, the artist some freedom on this because, you know, I can draw. I did the original skull, but I am not, you know, I'm not on Instagram slinging my wares there with the pen. You know, so I was not going to tackle that one. And she really delivered. She was so easy to work with. Again, she really crushed it. She was real quick with the emails. She's I think at Gornick Illustration on Instagram. She's fantastic. She does a lot of stuff around the St. Louis area. I think she did recently the flyer for the Coroner Violence shows that were coming through. A couple of the shows I think excite her too. She's just great. I think the one track that I want to pick from the album, it's the ones that I sing on. I would probably say Syntroducer, honestly, and Take Control or Take Over. It's so damn fast. This is a great example of writing something in such a way that you're like, this is just going to be the most kick-ass song ever. And then you get in the studio and you're like, oh, why did I do this to myself? But that one was so fun. It came together so easily, and especially the opening. We like to have fun, and I think that the opening to that song and the opening, you know, picking that as the opener for the album is just a kind of great example of like who we are. We don't take ourselves too seriously, but we do, you know, we take it seriously enough. But like the opening screams on that one, we just like to have fun. You know, we love heavy metal. We want people to listen to the songs and be like, oh, fuck yeah. And I think that first like 30 seconds to a minute of that song is just, you know, just kind of blows people's socks off. And then they're like, oh, damn, there's this, that was only the first track. So again, I think that encapsulates what we want people to take from this album. And I think really kind of sets the tone.
Right, go for it, Matt.
Cool. Big shout out, of course, to Dan Kishba of Panther Pro Audio and Creep Studios. A big shout out to AJ Maltasanti, who mixed our record. Big shout out to Dave Eck and First Blood Family Records. And also Phillips Cheesesteaks in Philadelphia, South Passyunk Avenue, Philadelphia. Phillips Cheesesteaks, that's always been our place. So love all of them. And, you know, the list goes on, of course, like big shout out to your sister Joe for all the help that she's given us with Sarah for taking pictures, and Julie for doing all the artwork and help us put everything in those annoying little stencils and sending it off to get pressed. You know what I mean? That's just that's priceless, man. So
lots of work on that one.
That shit's priceless, man. So definitely big shout out to them. And then big shout out to our friends and our family, all our fans here and also across the world. And big shout out, of course, to our other bandmates who aren't here today. But I would say for me to pick a track off this record, that's difficult for me because I musically I arranged pretty much every one of those songs, so I got to think for a second. But I think if I'm going to pick one that I think would really move people and give somebody a real experience and kind of an all-around vibe of what we're about, I would say go for Luxury, the last track on the record. It's a knockdown, drag out, blow away, we're gone kind of song, and that's why I felt it was necessary to end the album with that track. It shows a little bit more of the new wave of British heavy metal influences that I'm all about, I think. And I think that it delivers a really powerful message, and it has a certain feel to it that really makes a listener feel something, when they hear it. So that's the track I would pick. Luxury, last track on the album. That's
my
what I would do.
favorite drums on the album.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just so much fun to play.
Yeah, man. Definitely.
Awesome. Great choices, guys. And I'm going to slip in Why They Fear the Night because it's an absolute ripper of a track as well.
The bag.
Traitor, this has been an absolute pleasure. Everyone go out, grab Traitor's latest album, Last Hope for the Wretched. It does come out on CD, 8th of July. Put it in the stereo. Turn it up really bloody loud. The neighbors are going to want to hear this one as well. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.